we go racing. Luke Whitehead lights it up. The week Adam is going to take the green flag and send them all down to Hill Corner. But here we go, this is the action. We will side by side, a little bit of a nudge, a little bit of a clip of his teammate there. This is through the dipper, and that, I think, is one of the Genesis cars going straight into the wall. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Genisus Esports channel for round 3 of season 2 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. Brought to you by Immersive Labs and IMB Racewear. What a season we have had so far. David Christie here in the box with you tonight, and as always is my good buddy Tapelo Merioli joining me for some awesome kick-ass South African sim racing. Tapelo, good evening. It's been a wild season so far. We've only had 2 rounds, Imola and Misano. Still got another 9 left to go. We need to get a move on, don't we?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. We need to get a move on, but the racing has been so competitive and the season has been so great that you kind of want to savor the moments that we've had so far. So it's a bit tricky on where we want to end up. But so far, so good. Fantastic season. I'm enjoying it. How has it been from your side, David?
Yeah, very much enjoying everything that we've had. Pretty much no real surprises that the standings have gone the way that they are at the moment, but we'll have a quick look at the schedule just to remind you of what we have got. As I said, 2 rounds down. We are at Nürburgring in Germany here tonight, and then next week we are off to Paul Ricard. Unfortunately, I might fall ill for that one. Watkins Glen, Kailami, of course, for me the pinnacle of the season, visiting the homeland in February for Valentine's Day as well. That's very appropriate. And then all the way to Silverstone at the end of the season. That is what the drivers have got, of course, mirroring the LFM season calendar as well. And again, so much to talk about here tonight, Tapelo, but the biggest one is always, it is a complete mystery what's going to happen tonight. We have just been unleashed with a brand new patch, a brand new update, which pretty much always changes everything, breaks so many things. So I think the drivers are going to be finding out what's been changed underneath the hood of Assetto Corsa Competizione, and I think, Tapelo, we're going to be finding out as well at the same time.
Yeah, can you think about that? So you've kind of planned for a race. You knew the circuit, so you're like, I'm going to be comfortable. I know what I need to do. I know how to drive. And then there's a new patch. Everything changes. Dynamics are slightly different. Your car is either going to be faster, slower, more troublesome. It's kind of, dare I say, you're walking in blind. So all the prep could mean nothing, or it could be the best thing you've ever done. So you're right. We're going to see this just as drivers are trying to figure it out. And then to top it all off, you need to hold your composure for 90 minutes. That's not easy for any driver, let alone under these conditions.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So let's have a look at how the season shapes up so far after 2 rounds are in the book. Let's check out the standings so far. And there you can see then George Boothby 194 points ahead of Noah Eder. That is including the drop rounds. Marco Bischoff in 3rd position. Grantas Caracas in 4th position there. And Spansky in 5th. So at this point in the season, still very, very close. Still anybody's game in terms of how things are standing, but it makes it even more important that you get a good early start to these first couple of races, I think, here to Tapelo, just to really push home that advantage. We've seen, certainly in season 1, those drivers that don't use the drop round with the first 6 races have got a very good chance at being up there in the race end.
Yeah, for sure. It's just to give yourself some breathing room. And we've spoken about this a lot of the time, and you see this in league racing, even, if you're doing races by yourself. When you're in the lead or you're in a comfortable position, especially on a log, it just allows you to drive with less pressure, less considerations to make. So that's what a lot of these drivers will be looking for. Try and get themselves in a good position in, say, the first quarter, half of the season, and then kind of figure it out from there onwards.
I'm also having a look through the order here, not seeing any Luke Whitehead out there just now. That is Marco Bischoff though. It looks like the Mercs are starting to run quite well just now. One of the metas that we saw earlier on was that the Lambos and the McLarens were quite strong. The Ferraris seem to be having a bit of a resurgence. We've got an Aston Martin up there as well. Certainly with 21 drivers at the moment being up within a second right now, it would maybe lead me to believe that not all that it's not as monumental a change as maybe some of the drivers would have feared. But again, let's talk a little bit more about the circuit then. Obviously 3.2 miles located in the heart of Germany and home to not only the Nürburgring GP circuit but also the fantastic, wonderful Nordschleife, which is a track that is very, very dear to my heart. But let's go on board, Tapello. Why don't you take us round a lap of Nürburgring after turn 1?
Perfect. And as we look here, George Boothby going into turn 3. This is a very finicky part of the circuit. It's kind of like the car doesn't want to comply, so you need to force it to do some things for you as he goes into turn 4. I love the exit because you can really run wide on the exit as you head into turn 5. Heading into turn 6, bit of a tricky braking zone because you want to be as far right as possible to open up the angle going into turn 6. As you head into turn 7, the forward curve slightly downhill, so that can be a bit of a tricky thing to get right when you're a bit tired. I love this section of the circuit heading down into Dunlop curve turn 8. Again, downhill braking, but you can carry a lot of speed on the entry, kind of kill the car on the apex, then go out, run a bit wide as you head up to turn 9. The track increases, you kind of want to touch the curves on the right, switch back to the left really quickly to the right. You can hold a lot of momentum in turn 9 and 10. Keep that momentum going as you turn into turn 11. Hit the brakes, hit the curbs on the inside, run a bit wide, bring it back over to the left, open the angle for turn 12. And this is all flat out. The exit is so important because you are pushing through turn 13. It's flat, you don't really consider it a corner. This is where it can get tricky because this is a very good overtake opportunity in the race. Getting into turn 14, hit those curves, get into 15, and then you get into the Coca-Cola curve. Very tempting to try something during a race, go for an overtake, but you mess up the line, you will be hamstrung as you go into the start-finish straight. So it's very crucial to get a good exit right there at turn 16, heading into the next lap.
Spot on analysis there from Tapello. Thank you so much for that track guide there. I'm hoping that that will serve the drivers very well indeed. A very good evening to everyone that is in the YouTube chat tonight. Mr. Porsche GT saying a massive shout out to Gio for the incredible video introduction. Second you on that one. Farida Adams saying good luck to all the drivers. Looking forward to a good race and great commentary. Well, I'm hoping that me and Tapello have got that one covered. But apparently, Mr. Porsche GT saying that Farida Adams makes the best cupcakes in the world. I don't know about you, Tapil. I think we are going to have to find more information on that one. I think we need to dig a little bit deeper on that one, and I'm pretty sure Tariq will be in agreement with that one as well, as we're seeing Tariq Adam currently in P10.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Since we can't win prizes, we should be allowed on the board that does the cupcake tasting. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get it done.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm up for that.
Agree. We are going to spam to who's Farida Adam tonight. We're spamming her. We're trying to get a badge. I don't know, maybe 2 dozen, a dozen for me, a dozen for Christy. That's how we're going to get it done this season. That's
well, I'm here in Scotland, so it's going to have to be 2 dozen, to air, just to make sure that it actually gets here in one piece, obviously, Goodness me, right.
If they're as good as they say, then we definitely need to make that happen.
Well, fingers crossed. I mean, they might have special powers within them. We'll have to see. But either way, somebody else that's hoping to have special powers tonight, Sasha Vassner, coming out the final corner in P18, comes across the line, and wow, that's done a nice little jump there. 0.2 of a second. Sasha Vassner jumps up into 15th place. This is a huge lap for Grantis Caracas. He's going to have to watch out because there was a car that just absolutely straight lined that chicane just now. 8th place at the moment, 0.3 of a second behind is Grantis Caracas. What can they do as they come across the line? P5, that is 1/10 of a second improvement, but that is enough to get them up 3 positions just now. Valentin Barrier, one of the last drivers out there on a hot lap just now, through into the final chicane, weaves that Aston Martin side by side. You can see that glorious high-mo setup livery on the Aston Martin, pulls the car in, gets it on the brakes, into the apex, roars it into life, and that thing comes across the line, was in 9th place, is enough to jump up into P6. So George Boothby in pole position. Noah Ader though, 2nd position on that one. That is a banger of a lap. Here comes Jordan Watson for RTO Racing Team, out the final corner, comes across the line, and that's an improvement as well. So those final laps here with Tommy Rozier here up at the P14, can he break into the top 10? All it needs is 1/10 of a second, less than that, and he would still improve. It's 11th place, so not quite enough here. We've got one more car out there on track just now. It's Marco Schade who is out there, but I don't think he is on an improvement just now. It looked like everybody there improving on that last lap there, so some big pace available here today, Tapello.
Yeah, seems like they kind of, we spoke about that, getting the right lap at the right time. So seeing so many drivers kind of improve on their last runs, on their last lap, that's a good indication of the race. That means they're kind of dialing it in now. They're getting their braking points correct. They're getting the lines sorted. They're getting confident about how to channel and drive these cars around the circuit. So seeing that many improvements at the end of a session is always good heading into the start of a race, because that kind of says a lot of drivers are confident and they kind of know what they're going to be doing in this race, David.
Yeah, and that is, such a huge thing to be able to have that plan, to have that ability to, map out everything that you're going to be doing in the race is going to be absolutely crucial. It lets you plan for the unexpected. But you get some beautiful sights here of this wonderful circuit there, and a little glimpse of what is to come later in the year with the Nordschleife, the very much anticipated Nordschleife addition to Assetto Corsa Competizione. But here we are then on the grid as we go down then. George Boothby on pole position alongside Noah Ader. Then in row 2, Cody Sherritt lines up alongside Marco Bischoff, and then it's Grantis Caracas on row 3 alongside Valentin Barrier, 5th and 6th position. In 7th position is the BMW of Simone Seminara alongside Aram Spansky. And then on row 5 in 9th position, Marco Schade is alongside Abe Santima. Tommy Rozier in the leading Mercedes is in 11th place alongside Tariq Adam in the Ferrari. Then row 7 is going to be Sakiri Lehtinen alongside Luke Addison, 13th and 14th place respectively. It's Tommy Karppinen in 15th position alongside Sasha Vassner in 16th. You've got Manson in 17th position alongside Dennis Wietschork in 18th position. It's Krzysztof Muskowski in 19th alongside Watson in 20th position. Clifford in the Lamborghini, the only Lamborghini still in the top 25 right now, alongside Kuznetsov in the Ferrari in 22nd, and then Hatchie in 23rd, with a few more just behind them as well. But this is obviously the nervous time of the race here, the last moments with the drivers jumping up into their cars. You'll see them up in the air. If they're up in the air, it means they're in the setup menu. The cars then bounce down when drivers hit ready and they're in the grid, and the setup gets underway. They go for that formation lap here at Nürburgring, and it's the last chance for any of the nerves to get out the way, any of the butterflies to get rid of themselves. The one thing they don't have to worry about is the skies above them. Beautiful blue skies here, and of course with all of these drivers using this as a warm-up, as a template for LFM this week, I think that these races, this championship, has proved to be a very, very important testing ground, Tapello, for the days and weeks ahead.
Yeah, most definitely. Look, it's something we've touched on, kind of why the championship exists, right? But I just want to put it into perspective because a lot of people don't understand this. Practicing race situations on your own is one of the most difficult things to do because you cannot gauge your pace, your awareness, your racecraft, your race IQ. So it is difficult to do that kind of prepping for a season, prepping for a championship where you're doing it on your own. So something like the Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship, where you're practicing, dare I say, in a live race against other races, that means you have to respond to so many different things that happen on circuit, different driving styles, different levels of aggression. That just not only does it prepare you for how you need to drive, but it also gives you the skills that makes you a better competitor, a better driver, a better sim racer, because now you can respond to different things as and when they happen. So getting the opportunity to practice in a live environment is one of the best ways you can prep for a series, for a championship, for a race.
Absolute murder there by George Boothby on those poor innocent cones there with the Ferrari. But you're absolutely spot on there, Tapello. The other thing that I always think about with these situations where you're in a race that mimics a real, another race that you're doing later on that week, is the fact that very quickly you can get an idea of drivers that are around you, what they're like, how they behave, who you can race with, who you can push that little bit further, and who you want to absolutely steer clear with. And you better believe a lot of these drivers are already have been doing that homework in that first 2 weeks. Not everybody can be alien pace, the likes of George Boothby, but you still take part. You still want to have fun, and you still want to have an enjoyable race. So say you're consistently around about the pace of 10th to 15th, then you will likely, get to know the people that are around about that level consistently week to week, and you'll know the drivers that are around you and the ones that will play fair and the ones that will be a little bit rougher than everybody else. But either way, the time for talking is nearly over as the cars make their way up to the Michelin curve for the formation lap here. It's still single file, so for those of you who haven't really experienced the Settle Corsa Competizione, it's unlike a lot of other sims in which you get a full formation lap simulated. The cars are ghosted to a certain point, which means that you cannot collide with each other. That is, I think, has been a brilliant thing in reducing the amount of griefing and the amount of silly incidents. Certainly from my point of view, I'm an absolute spanner when it comes to the formation lap and would cause absolute hell. I'd be, because I'm distracted, I'm trying to start the stream, I'm looking at my setup, I'm looking at the tyre pressures, all that sort of stuff. But you can see here now, the cars fan out too wide. George Boothby and Noah Adair both leading their separate lines respectively, but the collision is still turned off. That's why you see some cars just sort of going straight through each other. It's then as they turn the final corner that the collisions get activated and the fun really begins. But round 3 then of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship Season 2 is about to get underway here at the Nürburgring. George Boothby and Noah Adair take the 40 odd cars down to turn 1, and we get ready for a bumper 90-minute race today. We didn't touch on that either, the fact that it is an hour and 30 minutes still, the mandatory pit stop, but we go racing. The green flags fly, and that's a hell of a start from Noah Adair as they charge down the pit wall for the first time of asking down into turn 1 then. Adair has the advantage on the outside. Is he going to be able to make anything stick there? There's chaos and carnage, and boom, there goes the dynamite straight into the back there. That green, I think that was a Ferrari there, sent like a bottle top into the back there. That might have been Alexander Kuznetsov. We'll get an idea on that. We've got a drive-through already for Manson. Boothby takes the lead of the race back then. Noah Adair, here comes Cody Sherritt as well. You've got Marco Bischoff in the background. This is thrilling stuff as they've got 90 minutes that they're going to have to navigate the circuit here at Nürburgring. But for the minute, it feels like it's just a 5-lap dash for the cash with these GT3 machines. It's Boothby, Adair, Sherritt, Bischoff, Caracas, Barrier, Seminara. You've then got Tariq Adam dropping down to 13th position as well. Marco Schade has actually dropped right out of the running completely. So I get the feel it might have been Marco Schade that got caught up in that initial incident there, Tapello.
Yeah, for sure. We thought it would be racing, but it turned into 10-pin bowling heading into turn one. Not what we love to see, and that could have ruined the race for so many drivers. But look, all's fair that ends well. Sometimes they say in racing, you need to take it as it comes. Top 5 getting away fairly cleanly. Very interesting battle at the start between George Boothby and Noah Ada. Two different manufacturers in the Ferrari and the McLaren, starting to see the strengths, and as we've seen so far, seems like the McLaren might just have the edge around these straights, and Ferrari is kind of pulling it back into the corners. But that will be very interesting to follow that battle as it pans out again in this 90-minute race. Kind of interesting that these guys push so far, as we see here with Tommy Rozier in P12, currently being challenged by Sasha Vosner, both driving Mercedes. So it should be a fairly equal battle. Their setups might make it a bit different, but as they head down into turn one, a very good overtaking point because of the late braking and downhill braking, as we see Tommy Rozier holding position down the outside. The next curve should favor him as it turns left, so he will have the inside line, but fairly clean from these drivers so far right now, as we see he's now on the outside. Very tricky to navigate when there's so many cars going around you, because you have to keep eyes everywhere. You need to be able to see your car, but see also your competitor's car, so you do not want to make a mistake this early in a race, David.
Wow, what a fight between Tommy Rozier here that we've been watching and Sasha Vosner. No blood spilled just yet, but the two of them absolutely not backing down. Sasha Vosner tried to keep the foot in at every single opportunity, but it wasn't to be, and has to relinquish that position down into P12. That's allowed Simone Seminara and Luke Harrison to kind of charge away a little bit. 1.2 seconds to the good as we go back to Marco Bischoff then to finish off our second lap here. We're 3/4 of the way around the lap here as Bischoff goes hot into the Michelin curve there, just chasing down at Noah Ada at the moment. This is allowing George Boothby to break away at the moment. We've got a replay then. I've got a horrible feeling this is going to be what happened right on the start finish line, and this is going to be a case of pinball here. So it is Alexander Kuznetsov here, gets tagged there, and I'll be honest with you, oh man, that's a horrible incident. But for me, I feel like Kuznetsov, from the very brief view that we got there, he did kind of not have full awareness that there was a car on his inside there. That car wasn't going to be able to go anywhere there, Tapello.
Yeah, look, and I don't want to say that's a racing incident, but that's what tends to happen when you have a massive pinch point like you do at turn one in almost every circuit in GT racing. It can become very difficult to kind of gauge where you are, how far you are from other competitors, and just being aware, because you tend to focus on what's in front, but people can come from your blind spot from the rear. So it becomes a very tricky thing to kind of navigate, especially when you're within the mid-pack and there are a lot of cars around you. It always gets tricky to try and survive. That's why for a lot of drivers, they say you can't win the race in lap one, but you can definitely lose it in the first corner.
I think the other thing with it, especially as a specific on Assetto Corsa Competizione here, the drivers have a giant radar that appears on the screen that tells them, that shows them where the car is right beside him. So he would have saw that that car was danger close on the right hand side there. So but it's a difficult one as well, especially on the first couple of laps, because the car does things under braking. So the car will sometimes, depending on which car you drive, will inadvertently move to one side sometimes, depending on the car that you've got. So that might have not been a deliberate thing, but it certainly, I think, should have been something that he was aware of. But either way, invaluable lesson, and I think that the stewards will be very curious to make a decision on that, as we see John Clifford then in the 999 Lamborghini. It was almost a postage stamp if that had come together with the Mercedes there. Keeps the foot in, and well, oh my God, why do people do that? Sorry, it's a total bugbear of mine, Sapel, but it's like you've had an accident and you've just caused another one by keeping your foot in and not rejoining properly. I just don't get it.
Yes, look, sometimes it's a bit of panic trying to sit yourself right, because you're so conscious about how much time you're losing by having that kind of spin. you just don't really think about being cautious, returning on track properly, and that's what happens. You from one accident to another. As we see Alexander Kuznetsov off track again. He's not having a very good race this week, and we kind of saw him pick up in consistency towards the end of last season, kind of consistently hovering within the point, top 15 finishes, but he's not having a good race today. As we see the current challenge between Tim Bayer here in the Mercedes. Down the inside we see the McLaren and the Honda. So again, we're starting to see that kind of tricky part of the race as we see contact as I'm trying to commentate, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I was just trying to say, you start to see these compartments where you have 4 cars kind of challenging each other, and as we say that, cars, I don't think that's a love tap anymore. That's full on kind of battle, let me show you who's the man kind of move, and I think that is the car out of the race. But as we head to the front of the race, Cody Sharrett currently chasing Valentin Berrier. Seems like the Aston Martin is doing fairly well. It's a car we don't see that often. We didn't see it. I don't think we saw it at all in the first season of the Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship. So to see it here and kind of see it holding its own in the top 4 for now is a very welcome sight, David.
Just going back to that incident with Loic Renier there, I'd be very interested to see a replay of that, because there was definitely some aggression between the two of them, and I absolutely guarantee you, if we look at that replay again, Renier tried to take that car out. Because you see a very deliberate, they're both coming up through a left-hander, and there's a very deliberate snap to the right there, as if to try and take out some frustration, shall we say. So obviously feeling very, very aggrieved. It's a move that I recognise, because I've done it quite a few times in many years gone by. Frustration getting the better there, I think, of Loic Renier, and he's only got himself to blame, I think, there from end up in that wall. So chaos, drama, everything you've wanted here. Carnage is the word that was used in YouTube chat. Well, yeah, I mean, I can see that, but I don't think we'll justify that just as of yet. But you're right, there's a little train developing here behind Valentin Berrier. You've got Cody Sherritt in there, Adam Spansky in there, Grantas Caracas at the back of that there. But that fight that we were watching there with Christian Duploy and Tim Bayer, that was a fantastic little fight as we cut back to your race leader, George Boothby. And this is what always worries me about these races here, Tapello, is the fact that it feels like if Boothby even gets a sniff of fresh air at the front, he's gone. He is, I mean, to be fair to Noah Ader, that gap's still 0.6 of a second, so maybe still keeping him within reach, but I wonder how much of this is just pace management at this stage from Boothby.
Yeah, look, and we've kind of touched on it. We saw it with Boothby, particularly towards the end of the season, but we also saw it with Luke Whitehead, just how good these drivers are when they're running in clear air, and just how they can increase the gap lap after lap after lap. It's kind of like they're driving without pressure, and they're doing their own things, like they forget they're in a race, and their pace manages to be so consistent. But perhaps for Boothby, it is the good omen of driving a Ferrari when there's a movie about the man, the legend himself, Enzo Ferrari, currently out in cinemas, as we see Alexander Kuznetsov having a shocker of a day in a Ferrari. So forget what I said, curse of the commentator, ladies and gentlemen, and I think he will be out of the race there. Not looking good. I think he sustained a lot of damage to keep that Ferrari going for the rest of the race. But so far so good for other drivers, kind of holding their position, trying to find their way as we're riding, focusing here on David Hill in the beautifully adorned McLaren 720 SGT3. I actually love this livery. It's vibrant, it stands out. You can't miss it, David.
You absolutely cannot. It certainly stands out, and that's what you want in these liveries. A lot of these drivers have brands that are supporting them, have a lot of sponsors that they have to look after, and the best way to do that is by getting a livery that kind of stands out, gets the attention, and has our wonderful Daniel Costello kind of drooling over it and giving it a little bit of attention. For instance, Valentin Berrier and that Heimo Setups livery on that Aston, I think that looks absolutely glorious, and it's great to see an Aston right back up at the charge of the field as well. As we go to a replay, this is what happened with Luke from earlier on. So look at this, look, watch the steering wheel. I think he feels like he's getting crowded out. Oh, okay. I have to take all that back then. That was actually contact from the car on the outside there that bounced him back. The car then pulled back in, but there was definitely no snap at the steering wheel. So I was absolutely wrong on that one, Tapello.
Yep, it happens. To
It happens a lot.
Don't worry about it. No, but I think therein lies the problem sometimes with trying to call something live as it happens. You don't have all the visuals. You're not seeing everything kind of play out, and you're trying to call it. But it's very interesting, and thanks again to our producer for showing us those angles, because that can change how we view a situation, and definitely the stewards will be having a good look at those kind of incidents and trying to make a decision coming from it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, either way, we are only 15 minutes into a 90-minute race, and it feels like a war of attrition for a lot of the drivers that were caught up in that first 10 minutes of chaos. Thankfully, things have calmed down a little bit now, and now we are leaving the drivers to kind of fight their own battles. Still plenty of opportunities for drivers to climb up. For instance, the gap between P10 and P20, I believe, is around about 8 seconds at the moment, so still a chance for some of those drivers to be able to drag themselves up, kicking and screaming very, very quickly indeed. At the front of the field, though, it is still George Boothby just ahead of Noah Eder. I think that gap's up to around about 1.2 seconds, just under a second actually at the moment, so it is gaining by around about a tenth of a second each lap. This is Adam Spansky come ahead of Grantas Caracas right now, but he is currently chasing as well Cody Sherritt in 6th position, fighting for 5th, possibly even looking at Valentin Barrier for 4th position. They're coming through that final chicane just now, the NGK chicane, and then through into the Coca-Cola curve to start lap number 8 just now as George Whitby goes across the line to start that for them. So for this point at the moment, again, a lot of the cars maybe looking to just settle down here for the moment, potentially thinking about pit stops, potentially thinking about fuel saving there, as Cody Sherritt was the victim there of a very tight camera angle, because it did look like he was just about to absolutely nuke Valentin Barrier there. Thankfully, he was a little bit further back.
Yeah, he almost did a Daniel Kvyat and brought back to life the name of the torpedo there. But yeah, it's that phase of the race where you kind of wanted to settle down now. You know, like you said, we're 15 minutes into this race. You kind of just need to settle down. As a driver, this is a very tricky moment, because you want to place yourself in a good position where you're able to maintain pace, but you're not losing out, and you're driving within yourself, kind of finding your rhythm, finding your place. And this is a very tricky part of the race, as we can see, especially in the front, because George Boothby has just extended his gap to 1.2 seconds, and this tends to happen when it quietens down. Some drivers find their pace relatively quicker than others, and they start to extend their leads, and some drivers just kind of struggle when there's a bit of less chaos and they fall back. So it's a very crucial part of the race in just how to position yourself, because what you do now can actually set up the next 10-20 minutes of the race for a driver.
Well, it looks like we've lost another driver from the race, unfortunately, and that does look like it was the 1-1 of Pooley in the Ferrari that we have just lost out. It was a yellow flag, and I see that car has now completely disappeared from the server, so gutting to see that. That is now a third car that we have lost in the space of that 15 minutes here, but we're still watching Valentin Barrier. Still George Whitby in the lead. He's taken, as we said, another 0.4 of a second out of Noah Eder right now, so that gap nearly 1.5 seconds as the pace starts to ratchet up here at Nürburgring in the heart of Germany for round 3 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. If you can believe we're already on to season 2. Amazing stuff. Valentin Barrier, though, has got Cody Sherritt right behind him, Adam Spansky with Grantas Caracas in tow there, but realistically, this is what we were saying there, the 4 of them are circulating, but with the exception of Cody Sherritt maybe having a look down the inside there, it feels like the 4 of them are quite happy to tow each other along. And to remind all of our audience as well, we have got that mandatory pit stop. So the pit stop window will open. I would imagine it's around about the hour mark, basically. It's around about the halfway mark. 20 minutes that they can go in for their mandatory pit stop, and then they will come out of that. But again, the question is, will strategy be an issue? We didn't think it was going to be an issue last week, and then it caused some huge upsets with a massive, massive boost to the undercut. I'd be very interested to see how that pans out this week. But for me, Cody Sherritt now starting to apply a little bit more pressure here to Valentin Barrier right now. Noah Ader sets the fastest lap of the race, but still losing out to George Boothby at the moment.
Yeah, sure. And I think that's what's so interesting about a mandatory pit stop, because like we saw last week, it has the potential to literally turn the race on its head. And again, you want to position yourself now, preparation for that pit stop. You kind of want to be comfortable now, build your gap if you can, and just make sure that you're comfortable for when the pit stop eventually happens. But as we're seeing here, we're starting to see those little clusters forming. You see, we've got the four here with Valentin Barrier, Cody Sherritt, Adam Spansky, and Grantas Caracas kind of within their own group, kind of, and they've got a bit of a gap to the next group. So that tends to happen. But what drivers know very well is that sometimes to be able to maintain pace, this is what you need to do. Find your group and maintain pace within your group. An overtake is not worth it with over an hour of a race to go. So it's all about holding position and just keep it going, keep the pace going. And if that actually works out well, you can start eating into the gap of the group that's in front of you. So sometimes it's all about pace and race IQ management, just where to position yourself and how to go about for the next 20 or so minutes in just driving the car consistently and lapping consistently.
Watching Sasha Vaster at the moment, again, just kind of fending off at the moment, trying to keep that little pocket of space just now, just behind Tommy Rozier and just ahead of Tariq Adam on the cusp of that top 10 right now. Will no doubt be eyeing up a position in the top 10, but one thing I've noticed here is that with all of these little groups, these little pockets of cars here, we're now seeing the overtaking kind of going down to single digits, whereas the first couple of laps we were seeing overtakes being done left, right and centre. Now it feels like a lot of the drivers now, it's almost like sussing out the other cars around them, the other drivers around them. Certainly if they feel like the car in front is massively slower than them, then they'll be looking to try and do that. But for the most part at the moment, I think a lot of these drivers happen to sit in the slipstream, get as much of the fuel saving as they possibly can, and potentially try and minimise any sort of pit stop here, as we see Grantas Caracas into the toe of Adam Spansky. But again, they're kind of proving that point there. Maybe any other lap would have been happy to have a look up the inside there, but not particularly interested at this early stage of the race.
Yeah, for sure. And you see, that's why we're saying that's the excellent point, or one of the excellent teachings that come from the Genisus Esports Kaizen Championship is just the race IQ, how to manage a race. You have an hour and 10 minutes to go. How do you manage that in terms of pace, in terms of positioning, in terms of eventually where you'd like to finish in a race? And sometimes it's not really about getting an overtake done, because you can slow yourself down while trying to fight for a position. Sometimes you just need to hold position and keep it going. So for example, Grantas Caracas right now, P7 might look like a disastrous result, but knowing that there's a mandatory pit stop and just driving within himself and within a group that is not far from the leading pack, that can actually be a very good position. And now as we pan back to Christian Duploy, currently stuck in the gravel, so there might have been some contact there, a lot going down under the radar, so we'll hopefully see a replay of what happened there, ladies and gentlemen. But riding here with the focus on Tariq Adam, he's very close, putting some pressure on Sasha Vastner as we get race control message. The incident between cars 666 and 999, love that, on lap 1, 10-second time penalty to car 666 for causing a collision. So that would be the 10-pin bowling maneuver we saw at the start of this race. As we focus on the cars right now, Tariq Adam on the outside trying to go for the overtake. Sasha Vastner has to take the curbs and go on the grass, so he loses 2 positions there. Should hopefully hold, but I think he will lose a third position as well. Tariq Adams saying thank you, as well as Tommy Razier saying, no, sorry, it's Lettinen there saying thank you for the position, I'll take that as well. David, kind of some action for you there to commentate on and see just how much pressure these drivers are under.
Oh, I don't know if I'd be able to do much commentating there. I was too busy giggling there like a small child at all that action and all that chaos that was unfolding there. But as we saw, Christian Venter getting a 10-second penalty there for contact with Clifford in that 999 Lamborghini, as you said, on lap 1 there, and causing all of that chaos there. So yeah, that's a difficult one for sure, but we'll I'm sure that won't be the last time we see race control in the next 10 minutes, because they are going to be very, very, very busy with all of that stuff going on in that opening couple of laps. But you're seeing here, Sasha Vaster has got Pete Short just behind. You've also got Watson trying to have a little look up the inside there as well. You've got Sakiri Lettinen in the Honda ahead of them in that number 30 car, and then Tariq Adam. But here is Noah Eder. Sorry, excuse me, it's Luke Addison. I was getting confused there. Sorry, I was getting confused there because the graphic changed, and I was thinking that it was the fastest lap there. But it is Luke Addison, because that's Simone Seminara that's up in front, the unmistakable BMW of Simone Seminara, coming under real pressure. And I've got to be honest, the Genesis Esports cars right now here, Tapello, are making an absolute charge.
Yeah, they're definitely making an impression, and they're kind of stamping their mark on this race, kind of being so competitive and trying to fight their way from where they are, kind of throwing caution to the wind as we spoke about, of trying to hold position. But maybe they're realizing that at this phase of the race, they might have the better pace, they might have the better opportunity to kind of lead a group and trying to eat into the gap of the cars in front. So if that tends to happen, then sure, why not go for it? If you can keep the move clean and you're not losing too much time by trying to press, then sure, go for it. Try and find a position for yourself.
And there is Adam Spansky. That is going to almost certainly have been contact. That is coming in through the arena part of the Nürburgring here. Spansky dropping down at least another 2 positions there. I would imagine that car is going to, so he's down to 12th position from 6th, fighting with Cody Sherritt and Grantas Caracas there. It'll be very interesting to see. Thankfully, it doesn't look like that car is too badly damaged just now, but he will be absolutely fizzing to try and recover those positions just now. You can see that car falling all the way down the order. In fact, it is just in front of Sakiri Lettinen. Let's have a little look then, but earlier on. So this is late onto the brakes. Grantas Caracas fires it in up the inside. The two of them are still side by side there. Caracas has to jump back out there. Oh, that's a strange one. I mean, having seen Grantas before in many races, that's certainly not a deliberate thing. I wonder if that car maybe disappeared on his side. But either way, I mean, that's a fairly slam dunk penalty.
Yeah, for sure. I think whether intentional or not, there's not much you can reason going into a situation like that. And for sure, I think that would have been the perfect candidate for the boink sound clip that we could have had our producer add there, because he does add those sounds in our ears, ladies and gentlemen. But yes, another racing incident, but surely will be worth a penalty going forward. But as we have another race control message, the incident between cars 26 and 666 on lap 2, 15-second time penalty to car 26 for causing a collision. So car 666 has got itself in all sorts of trouble. It's kind of like the MVP of incidents so far in this race, the number 666 McLaren of Christian Venter. So hopefully, luckily, it's not him who's receiving the penalty, but I don't think that is the kind of race you want to have as a driver, where you're involved in every incident that happens on circuit.
Oh, well, Marco Schade is another driver getting the attention of the stewards just now. We'll get that coming up in race control in just a couple of seconds' time when we do. But Marco Schade getting a 10-second time penalty there in that 65 Honda. So I'd be very interested to see what on earth that was for. But this is wild. Barely even half an hour into this race here. And have a look at this now. Cody Sherritt having now not got anybody in front of him in the form of Adam Spansky, is onto the back of Valentin Barrier now. So this is a fascinating little fight that's going to be unveiling itself just now, as Valentin Barrier coming under real pressure. He is just dropped off very quickly behind Marco Bischoff. That gap now 3.3 seconds as we get another message from Race Control then. The 505 and the 666. It's another penalty to the 666 for causing the collision. So I make that what now? 25 seconds for the 666 at the moment. So that car is just getting absolutely hammered, and I think you're spot on. I think that is obviously the MVP. It's the go-to car for incidents tonight here at Tapello.
Log off, switch off your system, go to bed, whatever you need to do. It's done. It's the end of the night. You know,
Get out.
You've done what you need to do. Park that car, switch off your system, turn off your phone. You don't want to see any notification for the rest of the night. You'll see the world tomorrow morning, because that is disastrous for the car 666 of Christian Venter. Like I said, first of all, you do not want to be the MVP of incidents, but if every incident for you is resulting in a penalty, it might be time to log off and just call it a bad day at the office, because there is no recovering from that kind of deficit in a race as competitive and with guys putting such impressive times and impressive pace as this.
Yep, so here we go then. This is the reason for Marco Schade then. It was an incident between him and the 101 car. And that is, that's that poor Ferrari of Puli, who has just been battered about like a pinball today. 10-second time penalty for causing the collision. And, well, Jonathan Clifford not doing any favours there, trying desperately to hold a Honda. Was that a Honda? Trying to get past him? No, it's a McLaren. I've got no idea why I thought that was, never mind. Either way, tries to hold on to that, loses the position. And, well, that was always kind of going to go away from Clifford there.
Yeah, for sure. Look, a bit of an aggressive move, you know, kind of elbows out kind of situation, but that looked fairly alright. It's just one of those that tends to happen. Someone breaks late and you're kind of trying to find position in a corner. But as we see, another notification from Race Control. Incident between cars 44 and 83 on lap 6. A 5-second time penalty for car 44 for causing a collision. Pseudo Lewis Hamilton, you're lucky that's a 5-second penalty, judging by the penalties that we've been seeing in this race so far. But as we ride on board with Luke Addison, P9 in the Ferrari, still putting a lot of pressure on Seminara in the BMW. But interesting enough, they have caught up to Abe Santima in P7. So we might be looking at another maybe 10-15 minutes of pressure and another group forming that could prove to be a very interesting challenge on track, David.
Yeah, but this is an unenviable position for Simone Seminara, trapped in a Genesis eSports sandwich. And what I've just noticed is 19th, 20th, 21st and 22nd, that looks like a real party going on, because they're obviously getting very touchy-feely with all of the incidents and penalties getting handed out. Now, that one that was given to Tim Bayer in the 44, that was for the incident with Loic Renier that we saw Renier going into the barrier. So he got a 5-second penalty. So obviously he was judged by Race Control to be at fault for that. And ladies and gentlemen, we are just seconds away from going into the final 60 minutes of this race, round 3 here of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship Season 2. David Christie here in commentary with Tapello Merioli by my side as always, and we are just loving all of the action that we have had so far. George Boothby still in the lead of the race, a very commanding lead. He's had the charge of this right from the get-go. Noah Ader left to his own devices, but here's the crucial thing here. Noah Ader now coming under pressure, I think, here from Marco Bischoff, and this could be a change of position. Marco obviously smells the pace changing here, and this could be a move down into turn 1.
Yeah, and that's what tends to happen, the deeper you go in a race. Some drivers feel more confident in different phases of the race, so you will see kind of peaks and troughs in terms of driver pace, where some drivers will just be faster than the cars around them for a good 10 minutes or so, then their pace kind of levels out with everyone else, and you will find phases where they're slower. So the ultimate trick for any driver in any racing championship is to try and keep those peaks and troughs, because those are normal, but to minimize the difference between your slowest and fastest as much as possible. So that's what the fast guys do really, really well, as we see Cody Sharrett again putting pressure on the beautifully adorned. Yes, I finally see what you were saying, David Christie, about the Aston Martin of Barrier. That color scheme works so well. One of my favorite liveries, I think, so far this season. But pressure galore livery means nothing when you've got a Ferrari from the Genesis Esports team breathing down your neck.
Yeah, this is going to be a very, very interesting 10 minutes, I think, here for P2, P3, and then P4 and P5. I think P2 and P3 are a little bit closer than the battle for P4 at the moment. Bischoff certainly looks like he's hunting. He's preying on Noah Eder at the moment, just waiting for that car to get round to the start-finish straight as well here. You can see as well Noah Eder taking some very different lines now, making sure that he negates that opportunity. But I'm also seeing that in the background, Grantis Caracas is slowly but surely catching his way up to make this a 3-car party with Valentin Barrier, Cody Sherritt and Grantis Caracas all in that fight as well. 57 minutes left to go in this race. The pit stop window, ladies and gentlemen, will be opening itself very, very shortly, I think in about 10 minutes time. And it will be very interesting to see when the cars decide to come in. Certainly for George Boothby, I don't think that's going to be an issue of strategy whatsoever. I don't think he's going to have to worry about Noah Eder, certainly with the fact that that car is, as Krzysztof Miskowski, I'll hold that thought a second, comes into pit lane, so that's outside of the pit lane being open. That car is absolutely mangled. There is your answer. So that's not for his mandatory pit stop, as Jonathan Clifford fires it up the inside of Hill there, trying to get that move done again on the McLaren. Clifford will pull it round on the inside. Hill tries to go around the outside, but actually that was a very, very clean move there by Jonathan Clifford. Well done to get that P23 back.
Yeah, my man Clifford pulling in the late braking maneuver. Again, turn 1 proving to be a very good overtaking opportunity if you can get your car stopped in time, because the funny thing about turn 1 on this circuit is it dips very sharply, so if you don't get your braking point correctly, it's very easy to kind of fall offline, and then you're losing massive amounts of time in that. But well judged, a brilliant move. And again, that's been the strength of the Lamborghini. We saw this a lot in season 1, and I think we're still seeing it again in season 2. The Lamborghini's been very good on the brakes, but as we see the two McLarens of Noah Eder and Marco Bischoff fighting for position, as Bischoff finally gets the overtake on Noah Eder. But that is a brilliant move, well judged once again, but he will be under pressure heading into the start-finish straight. And for a confidence boost and kind of keeping pace in the race, Noah Eder will be looking to get the return move as soon as possible, hopefully again heading into turn 1, which has proved to be a very good overtaking opportunity for a lot of drivers, but just not close enough to put in the pressure that he wants. He will have to tuck back into the slipstream, head through the arena section, and hopefully look for something heading into turn 6 or turn 7 out of the curve and heading down into turn 8. That might be the next overtaking opportunity where Noah Eder might look to respond as soon as he can.
I'm trying to remember. We've spoken to Noah Eder on the post-race interviews. Isn't Noah part of Sprout Esports as well? If we can switch to him just for a second, I think he is. So if that would explain it, because that didn't look like an aggressive overtake. That looked like I'm going to let you have this position. So yeah, Noah's part of Sprout Esports, so they're teammates. So that explains everything then. Noah's obviously just let Marco through because it's the faster car, and actually doesn't mean anything for the two of them. They just want to get the most team points that they possibly can. So great team play between the two of them. And they will, hands above the rest, again ahead of Valentin Barrier right now, 3.3 seconds. They don't need to worry right now, but Bischoff might be able to have the pace to actually start bringing that gap down to Boothby. but I would very much doubt that. As pit window, as you said, is open now, 20 minutes for the cars to come in and serve their mandatory pit stop for the likes of Schade, Bayer, Gottschalk and Fenter. They are going to be able to serve their time penalties as well. That will be in the form of a hold before they get serviced into pit lane. But again, it's all about the strategy just now. George Blueberry still in the lead of the race, ahead of Marco Bischoff, Noah Ader in third, Valentin Barrier in fourth, and Cody Sherritt in fifth. That's how your top five look like, with 53 minutes left to go.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, now that the pit window is open, as you've pointed out, David Christie there, that a lot of cars will be going in, especially the cars that have penalties to serve. They will be serving their penalties as well. That means the car will be stationary for the length of the penalty. But I tell you what, there will be one car where the driver will have a sing-along and kind of distract themselves, because those penalties are huge. That is a long time for the car to be stationary. But back on circuit, as we follow on, let's focus on the BMW of Jordan Watson here. In a very good position, actually, P16, not too far from P15, who's also not too far from P14, not far from P13. So kind of the groups that we've been seeing that will be positive, as we see Christian Fenter, and this is the driver that will be having a sing-along, because they will be stationary for quite a while. So we can kind of forget Christian Fenter for a while as they serve their penalties. But back to the front of the circuit again, as we see Luke Addison putting a lot of pressure on Seminara once more. Kind of good defending from Seminara, holding and putting that BMW where it needs to be, not kind of overdriving it to defend, but just placing it and getting the pace where they need, so that the defense is much easier and doesn't cause them to lose a lot of time in defending.
Could not have said it any better myself. That was a very, very spot on assessment there, Tapello. The thing with it, what I love about this championship as well, and this is something that we kind of rip apart every single week, is the fact that a lot of people watching this championship might just think, oh well, they're just racing cars around for 90 minutes. What's so complicated about that? And you know, we've seen all of the intricacies, we've seen all of the minute details that go into this, the preparation, the planning, the teamwork, the almost the mind games that go into this every single damn week, and it never fails to impress me how much preparation these drivers, these teams, and you know, everybody involved put into not just this championship but for the LFM as well. And it's gone, I think we were speaking about this at the start here, Tapello, the fact that this championship was kind of seen as a warm-up for LFM, right? And I think honestly now in season 2, this is now easily standing up on its own 2 feet as a fantastic championship in its own right.
Yeah, most definitely. It's kind of grown a persona of its own. It's developed its own ego, and it's standing as a competitive series in and of itself. And I think, look, I've gamed for a while, nowhere near the level of these guys, but I've gamed, and I think one of the most difficult things to convey to someone who doesn't game is just how many things you have to consider when you're in a live race. You know, like we've always spoken about, your pace, your positioning, the car in front, the car behind, where you want to finish, a mandatory pit stop, setup, driving style, braking points, traction, all these things. And when people ask what's so complicated about it, I always say to them, because it's an information overload. Yes, you can probably do it when there's no pressure, but when you're under pressure and there's a lot of information to consider, that's what separates the good guys from the great guys, the novices from the veterans. But ultimately, it's what makes the sport well worth loving. As we see a lot of cars now coming into the pits, we saw Caracas, but as we see Tariq Adam having an issue currently off circuit, doing some donuts, they're cutting the grass for the lawnsmen at the Nürburgring, something that we do not actually see that often from Tariq Adam, and I think that is a very good decision. He's already lost time by going off circuit and struggling to get back, so might as well take his pit stop now where he's kind of lost time, regroup, and then come out and try and get back to pace with the other guy. So definitely something we don't see often from Tariq Adam, who's been a very confident driver, especially towards the end of last season. Very confident, not error prone, drives beautifully. So definitely a rare incident today, David.
100%, and I think that that's one of those incidents where it's going to look a little bit worse than it actually is, because obviously it's at a very high speed part of the circuit at that final NGK chicane there. He's obviously launched it over the curb there, lost control of it, and the cars went off into the grass, but it looks like he's not hit anything. And then, you know, you've got, fair enough, you've got the extra couple of seconds there where the car spins around in the grass. It's brutal to try and get any sort of traction here in the final chicane there. So again, I think that he'll maybe have lost about maybe sort of 10-15 seconds out of that. He'll be able to recover it, but for sure that is almost certainly going to mean that he is going to be outside the top 15 for the finish of this race, I would imagine, as we get a replay. And I've got a horrible feeling that this is what has happened to Tariq. So launched it over the one curb. Yeah, there we go, that sausage curb. Oh, and he's been smashed. That's what's happened. He's had a collision from a car, and to be fair to that car on the inside there, Tapello, completely unsighted, wouldn't have had anywhere to go here as we see Cody Sherritt into pit lane. So, oh man, you hope that there's not too much damage on that car of Tariq Adam, but I mean, talk about making a bad situation even worse.
Yeah, for sure. Look, that's one of pure racing incident. There is nothing the car on the inside can do. These guys have fast reflexes, but even that is too fast to have any sort of reaction. You're not going to hit the brakes. You're not going to steer away. It's kind of those Jesus take the wheel moments and hope you do not get a lot of damage from the incident. So yeah, not much that could happen. Really unfortunate for Tariq Adam, and it's kind of a hilarious thing to see, in the sense of we speak so much, and I usually do this when I talk about maximizing time around a lap and how you can abuse track limits and run over these curbs, but therein lies the risk of going too far over a curve. You will hit the raised part, and that can send your car in a spin, and once you lose that traction, it is very difficult to get it back. So sometimes it's kind of a let what happens happen kind of situation, and you'll pick up the pieces after that.
Yeah, what will be will be. Jesus take the wheel, I think, is pretty much the best way that you could describe it, as you were saying there, Tapello. So it is what it is. The damage has been done, and the recovery drive starts now. Here is Cody Sherritt, though, out of pit lane, so currently the highest driver at the moment that has pitted, just behind Marco Schada. You've also got, I'm pretty sure that I see Grandes Caracas actually behind him just now. So at the moment they are P15 and 16 on the track, but that is by default, because obviously they've got all of those cars in front of them have still yet to pit. So you can see that bright red Ferrari of Grandes Caracas behind him, and then look what Addison is going to be behind them as well. Valentin Barrier then, and Heim will set up his car, comes into pit lane. So does Abe Santima, as well as quite a few other cars as well. Tommy Rozier's in the pits. I wouldn't be surprised to see Vitshark decides to stay out as well. So again, with all these cars coming into pit lane, I think that's Hache coming into the pits as well. With all these cars coming in on this lap by, it's still only halfway through this pit window, so a lot of the cars here at Tapello deciding to come in earlier rather than later to get that pit stop out of the way here. But curiously, I've also noticed that 3 of the 4 cars that had those race control penalties, they've decided to stay out a little bit longer.
Yeah, and I think by staying out, they're just trying to maximize on track position and kind of push as long as they can to, dare I say, shorten their second stint on a new set of tires, because drivers tend to do that, take a fresher set and kind of just push all out in the second stint towards the end of the race. So strategy coming into play, and how these drivers take their mandatory pit stops, when to take their mandatory pit stop, because sometimes you will see with some drivers, they see maybe they're struggling for pace and they're not making the inroads to the cars in front of them that they would like to do, and that's when they take the pit stop, kind of a reset, so to speak, you know, kind of calm yourself, try and regain your rhythm and find your rhythm after the pit stop. So the pit stop can be a very strategic move, not only for on-track position, but for the psyche of a driver as well, David, and just how to find your pace once again and be more competitive.
Yeah, no, I can absolutely agree with you on that from personal experience this weekend when we were doing the iRacing Daytona 24 hours. Those pit stops, those brief respites, those brief chances to just take a breath and think to yourself and think, right, what am I doing now? What do I need to still do? It allows you to really, really think about a lot of things here. As I didn't see this coming. That is a huge jump then, because Valentin Barrier is actually being done by Cody Sherritt. As here comes Grantis Caracas, tries to fire up the inside. That's never going to work, causes contact, and that was a poor incident there from Grantis Caracas. You were never going to get that position from Valentin Barrier. Does the sporting thing and allows Barrier to get going again, but really destroyed any chance of them being able to progress up into those podium positions there. And that is now Barrier firmly down in what I can calculate is around about 5th place right now. So Cody Sherritt has pulled an absolute masterstroke there to Bello, jumping up into P4 and potentially trying to get the undercut, maybe trying to get a podium here.
Yeah, we spoke about the strategic timing of a pit stop, when to take it, where to come out, and that worked wonders for Cody Sherritt. We saw the massive undercut last week. Now we're seeing a bit of strategic play as well. Just unfortunate, the incident between Valentin Barrier and Grantis Caracas. And we're looking in a very good position, and that's not what you like to see. But we do appreciate the sportsmanship from Grantis Caracas just to let Valentin Barrier go past. As finally we see the race leader George Boothby coming into the pits, followed shortly by Marco Bishop, who went a bit wide, trying to push as much as he can heading into the pits, and Noah Ada as well. So the top three finally in for their pits, but it is looking a bit tricky because I think he's still too far to make an impression, Cody Sherritt, in terms of maybe trying to jump them, but he will be close. So it's all about how much time can he make up in the second and third sector of his lap to get as close as possible to the front three as they are currently in the pits, David.
For sure. Pit stops, I think, are going to be absolutely crucial now. I mean, we're now into the thick of it here. We've only got a couple of minutes left for these pit stops. We've got 4 of the remaining 6 cars at the front of the field into pit lane. I am so interested to see what's going to happen here. Cody Sherritt then through the NGK chicane. Out comes George Boothby. That was never going to be in threat. But what I am interested in is Marco Bishop and Noah Ader. Where are they when it comes to the pit lane? Marco Bishop leaves pit lane just now, and so does Noah Ader. And here comes Cody Sherritt then. This is going to be very, very, very close indeed as they come down. There is Cody Sherritt. He has got a chance here. He has got the hint that he could possibly get a podium here right now. The Cody Sherritt up to P4. Noah Ader is probably about 2-3 seconds ahead here, and I am just very, very keen to see how this one develops here, because I'll be honest with you, I think Cody Sherritt has absolutely got the pace on Noah Ader right now. Remember, Bishop was able to get past, and maybe that's going to be a move that they're both going to regret coming on. That car is definitely around about 2.5 to 3 seconds just behind. Here comes Grantis Caracas then behind Valentin Barrier. Is it going to be a second bite of the cherry for Grantis Caracas? He certainly feels like he's faster here, but he's got to do it in a way that is respectful, fair, and actually gets the job done without taking out the car in front here.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of what we've spoken about, the race IQ of how to plan a move and how to execute a move. You want to do it with the least prospect of damage as much as possible. And if you have to kind of postpone your move for a few corners just to make sure that it's safe and you can do it without the threat of contact or an incident, then you do that. But again, looking very close as the exit turn 12, heading down to turn 13. Very, very quick corner here. Will he be looking for a move heading down into the chicane? No, he thinks better of it, as you can see him tucked back in line as they head over the curb. So I think he will be trying to set up a move Grantis Caracas on Valentin Barrier heading down into turn 1, which is as again definitely one of the best overtaking spots on the circuit. He's already deep within the slipstream, heading down to turn 1. Bit of a gap opening, but I think he should be, depending on how late he wants to push the brakes here, but he thinks bit of it again, holding his line, just putting enough pressure for giving Valentin Berrier something to think about. But again, I think the contact that they've had already is in the back of their minds, and it's kind of pushing Grantas Caracas to be a bit more cautious on how he tries to execute this move.
Yeah, and again, it comes back down to the comment that I made right at the start of the broadcast, with the fact that a lot of these drivers race each other every single week. They know each other, they know how they race, and a lot of them as well, let's not forget, will be on voice chat with each other as well, or have the ability to kind of pop by. So if there's anything happen, normally 9 times out of 10 they'll pop by in the swing by in the voice chat, and usually just, you know, take a couple of seconds to apologise for whatever happened, and they'll know there's no bad blood between the two of them, unless there is, in which case we'll probably see that spill over a little later on. But at the moment, Grantas Caracas does feel like he's got the faster car. He is putting extra pressure on Valentin Berrier, but again, he has to do that in a way that is fair and justice. Sakiri Lehtinen is the last car to jump into pit lane there from the lead of the race. Of course, he is the de facto leader since he hadn't been into pit lane. Jonathan Clifford now has fallen back behind Hill in that 555 McLaren. And again, this is now a first chance to see what changes, if any, have happened with the update performance with the cards that are out there since that brand new update came out. I believe it was yesterday, or was it today that brand new update has come out. So it is a bit of a voyage of discovery, because of course we had that preview event that was open to the influencers, but Clifford trying to drive around the outside there, clips the car, and I've got a feeling that might result in more drama coming into the NGK chicane, as there we go, they keep the foot in, and to be fair, it is messy, but it's as you were as they go back into that last corner here. That McLaren has now got a target on his back here, as Jonathan Clifford wants to get past that car very, very quickly indeed. Tapello, I get the feeling that one of these cars is going to end up in the virtual hospital very shortly.
Can we just acknowledge that Jonathan Clifford and Hill have been going at this for the better part of an hour? They've been, dare I say, the most consistently battling cars amongst themselves, and they've swapped position multiple times, with Clifford getting the edge and Hill getting the edge, Clifford getting the edge, Hill getting the edge. So they're having their own battle within this race. It's kind of like they've forgotten that there are other cars in this race, and they're just having fun amongst themselves. But heading back into the top 5, as we see Valentin Berrier and Grantas Caracas again close with each other. Grantas Caracas still putting a lot of pressure in the Ferrari, but very interesting. And we saw this when Grantas Caracas tried to go for the move on the previous lap. The Aston Martin just seems to have decent straight line speed, and that allows Valentin Berrier to defend. But as we see, Grantas Caracas pulls out. But you see, there you go, Valentin Berrier getting a bit of an edge when the VMAX starts to count on these cars. I think we'll see it again if we can just stay with them as they head down the start-finish straights. You'll see the Ferrari gets a good exit outside of the corners, and it kind of closes up on the exit. But once they start to hit VMAX and once they start pushing, the Aston Martin looks to have the Ferrari's number in terms of outright raw speed. So that would be a very good kind of defensive tool, dare I say, in the bag for Valentin Berrier with the Aston Martin, is just to make sure that they don't lose a lot of time in the corners and maximize their seemingly not great but considerable straight line advantage on the straights. And this is a circuit that definitely favors someone with a straight line advantage. And finally, as we see, the pit window has finally shut, and that is no problem, as all races on circuit have taken their mandatory pit stop.
Yeah, that's a fantastic observation, Tapello. You're absolutely spot on with that one about Valentin Berrier. It seems to be as soon as that car hits 5th gear, about 5th gear, maybe 4th gear actually, it just gets that little bit of a boost over the Ferrari behind, and that must be so frustrating for Caracas, who must feel like he is faster in all the twisty technical sections of the track, but it doesn't matter because that Aston Martin is just able to pull away. As we cut back to Abe Santeba here, just chasing down that Simone Seminara BMW in front of him. This is the battle for 8th position, as we have got over 30 minutes left to go in this third round of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship Season 2. But for me, the interest lies in third position. Noah Ader now, 1.5 seconds is the gap between him and Cody Sherritt. That 38 Ferrari is charging right now, but the gap is actually starting to go up and up and up. So I wonder if Sherritt has maybe lost the best opportunity that he had to catch up onto that McLaren here.
Yeah, either that or they're kind of conserving their pace and kind of settling down to go at it again. But we never know until we really know in these races. And that's what I find so interesting and so captivating about these races, is you can see a moment where you think, oh no, these drivers maybe cooked their tires, they're holding back, they've lost the pace that they've had. And then 10 minutes later, you start to see that pace come back and they start becoming a competitor again, showing impressive pace on circuit. But as we see on the right side screen, ladies and gentlemen, the leading car of this race, George Boothby, who I think has made it a habit at this point of just finding his space on circuit, finding his pace and driving as if he's the only car driving in a race, because his pace looks tremendous, but more than that, it is the composure with which he achieves these kind of gaps and this ascendancy in a race. Because never when you're looking at his onboard or when you're focusing solely on the car do you get a feeling that George Boothby is over driving. It always feels like he has some reserve left in the tank, but even with that kind of scenario, he is significantly faster and he is just showing up all the other races on circuit.
I think on top of that as well with George Boothby, it feels almost otherworldly, the pace that George Boothby and you know, even Luke Whitehead have got to bring to the table here. The thing is that we see races where he can be caught and he can be vulnerable to other drivers, but in the races like this, and you're just like, yeah, there's nobody even coming close to him right now, and he's just able to consistently eke out that gap. And ladies and gentlemen, that is what talent and practice does for you. That is what ungodly hours can do for your driving ability and for your driving skill. You know the game, you know the track, you know the cars better than anybody else out there. As we see Cody Sherritt now, gap is now out to 2 seconds, so I'm going to call it early with 30 minutes left to go. He could be trying to save his tyres here, but I don't think he is. I think that pace is now done. The fact that Noah Ader's been able to stabilise and push out, and Sherritt, you know, let's not forget that Sherritt was down there in about P6 earlier on through the race, and I think that's where that pace may be taking him. But thankfully he's got a huge gap over Valentin Barry, 7 seconds right now, so I think Cody Sherritt is going to settle for, or going to have to settle for 4th place. Obviously he'd like to have more, but I just don't think that pace is in there with the Ferrari right now.
Yeah, for sure. And look, a part of me is still wishing that it's one of those situations I mentioned where you're kind of seeing a bit of a trough in his pace, but the peak is going to come once again. Maybe he just needs to settle and find a different rhythm. But yeah, I think his massive push was impressive to watch. But look, there's still 30 minutes, which is a very considerable margin of time in this race. So it will be very interesting to see what kind of impression beyond here that Cody Sherritt can make. But judging by the current standard and what's happening right now, he seems to be losing that pace, and it's more about just maintaining his position and just trying to keep a visual reference of Noah Ader in front, because sometimes that's all you need. As long as you can see that there's a car close to you in front, that can help you maintain pace and not lose too much time.
For sure, for sure. And it is all about maintaining that time and maintaining that pace. As here we go, Sakiri Lehtinen makes a move up the inside of Dennis Wietschark there. Wietschark tries to be as aggressive in the defence as he possibly can, but you get the feeling that that might be done and dusted as they come through into 3. A little bit of contact there, and Wietschark, for some reason tonight, it's been quite unusual that the aggressive cars are the ones that are coming off the worst tonight here, and that allows Sakiri Lehtinen and Watson to just drive away like nothing's actually happened there. In fact, that's away down in P16 because that was, or P15 rather, because that's Sasha Vastner away up in front as well. As here is Grantas Caracas. We're back to this battle for 5th position here into the final half hour of this 3rd race of the season, and Valentin Barry is still proven to be that cork in the bottle at the moment. Now the question for me is, when is Luke Addison going to catch up to this group? You can see just in the background there, this could be a very busy party very, very quickly. We saw what a cork in the bottle Valentin Barry was in 4th position at the start of the race now, and with Luke Addison and Simone Seminara charging down here, this could be a 4-5 car battle for that position by the end of the race here. This could get very, very spicy indeed.
Yeah, most definitely. It will get spicy, and I think that's what we love to see. Just how close these guys can race each other, and just the composure that they have to be this close and try and find different ways to try and get around the car in front or keep pace. And that will be very interesting to see what kind of technique and what kind of weaponry, dare I say, Luke Addison can use to try and keep touch with the guys in front and hopefully get those 2 positions for himself.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. We're only going to have 25 minutes left of time for them to kind of give us the answers there. Also noticing that gap to George Boothby has actually come down as well, from what was around about 6 seconds now to just over 5 seconds here with Marco Bischoff now. And I'm pretty sure that will be pace management there, as Sakiri Lehtinen has a little bit of a bump, a little bit of a nudge onto Watson just in front. That gap's come down for the second the second quarter, the second sector in a row here. I'll be keeping an eye on Marco Bischoff right now, but that's a bit of a strange one. Either way, Sakiri Lehtinen has met the immovable object that is a BMW. Watson is just in front there, and we've got an auto, which means that Abe Santima has had a bit of a moment. So it's safe to say that Genesis Esports have had an interesting night with contact, collisions, and penalties.
Yeah, they're trying to. I think the Genesis Esports guys have a checklist this race of, can we tick the box of everything that can happen in a race? Can we have an off? Can we have a penalty? Can we have a good entry? Can we have a good overtake? And I think so far they've ticked all the boxes of what you can expect in a race. So hopefully good fortunes for them going forward. But just to touch, I think Jonathan Watson might have been one of the biggest gainers from the pit stops, because he's currently running in P10, and I think before the pits they were kind of pushing about P14, P15, so the pit period kind of worked very well in their favor for Watson in that BMW. I stand to be corrected, but I think they've kind of made it work in their favor, and that's something we love to see, as we saw Cody Sherrick made it work in their favor. But that's another car that I think we might have missed, that's gone under the radar, but the pits have worked very well for Jonathan Watson.
Yeah, again, that's a great spot there. Watson was indeed fighting around about that group with Spansky and Sasha Vastner for 13th, 14th and 15th position. So some huge gains here, and you get the feeling, I mean, you're watching the Honda here of Sakiri Lehtinen, and I always joke, I always make the meme about, you can tell the body language of the cars here, and this Honda is starting to get very, very impatient here, and you can understand why. You've got Abe Santiva there, you've got Adam Spansky, you're about to get Sasha Vastner all up in your face very quickly, and this battle for the final spot in the top 10 is going to be very, very fiery in the final 25 minutes of this race. it's polite just now. I think they're tolerating each other for the most part at the moment, but this is going to start getting very, very difficult to watch. And the problem as well, I'll come back to my train of thought in just a second. We've got a quick replay to cut to just now, and then we'll talk about Cody Sherritt. Let's have a look here then. On board, this is Abe Santima. It's a hardware failure. Looks like the wheel is just disconnected there. He's got going again, or maybe it's the pedals. He's just decided to stop at the side of the road there. Gets going again, but either way, that's definitely looks like a hardware failure.
Yeah, I think someone needs to give him a call so he can tell us what's happening, because we're trying to find out and we're failing. So Abe Santima, wherever you are, if you hear my voice, just give us a heads up if you're right, okay? You just need some help figuring out what's happening with your car. But back on circuit, ladies and gentlemen, 23 minutes to go, and there are a few interesting battles that I would love to see how they pan out, as we have an overtake in the background. I think that was Abe Santima in the McLaren. Yes, it was. No overtake, it was just a battle I hear in my ears, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, moving our eyes so much that we see things, apparitions, they say, but it's just a battle trying to hold position. We get excited sometimes as commentators, you know, and we start to see things, and I think that's usually what happens when you're in a long race. We've been here for over an hour, so our minds are playing tricks on us.
Unfortunately, one of the things that I noticed, right, maybe this is my old age as a very old man, but sometimes I'll be halfway through a sentence and then completely forget the point I was trying to make, and then get very confused, and then you see something and you've kind of mistaken what was actually was going on. So I do that quite a lot, but in a completely different context. And let's say it's just, I think it's I'm getting on a bit and becoming an old man there, as we saw the Merc there, Sasha Vaster getting it sideways through these Schumacher S's there. You've got Dennis Vietschork trying to take advantage of this right now. And what we also saw there from Abe Santima was that concertina effect there. He went for a move on Sakiri Lehtinen. It didn't work out. He was compromised on the exit of that final corner there, and that allowed Spansky and Sasha Vaster to have a look in. Vaster then dropped back a little bit more. My thing though that I'm going to say here is Cody Sherritt is in big trouble. The pace on that car has absolutely cratered right now. Remember that gap to Valentin Barrier was 8 seconds. It's now 5.2 seconds. 22 minutes left to go. He is going to get overtaken and lose that 4th place if he doesn't get a move on just now. Very curious to see where that pace has gone from that Ferrari right now. But at the moment, George Boothby in the lead from Marco Bischoff, 5.3 seconds. I thought Vietschork was going to have a look up the inside there, and that means that Sasha Vaster was late onto the brakes there, compromised on the exit of turn 1 here then, going round into the arena section here at Nürburgring. It's in between a rock and a hard place at the moment, because Spansky is there fighting Santima, and Vietschork wants to get past Vaster right now. Everybody desperate to get a move on at the moment, but it's all going to come undone if anybody comes into contact with each other here, especially with the likes of Watson and Lehtinen. They're fighting up as well, as Vietschork goes very, very deep into the corner there. To be fair, he almost pulled that off there, as we go back to Grantas Caracas, who still hasn't got past Valentin Barrier here. So it's almost 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 is the order of the day here at Nürburgring.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Valentin Barrier is driving the widest Aston Martin ever created in-game or in real life, because getting past that Aston Martin has proven to be such a difficult task for Grantas Caracas. And again, difficult in the sense of it really isn't much that Grantas Caracas is doing wrong, where you'd say they're losing touch or they're losing pace or they're losing, you know, critical points in trying to get that overtake. Like we pointed out earlier, Valentin Barrier is just maximizing on the strengths of that Aston Martin, so much so that wherever they have a weakness, the strengths do cover for the weaknesses that they have. So that is one of the instances where you see a driver just maximizing everything they have from the package they are driving, and sometimes that is enough to not have you comfortable, but good enough so that you do avoid an overtake by not having to defend erratically, but by just keeping the pace that is available from your package.
In picture, two separate battles here, the battle for 4th place and the battle for 10th place right now, as Sakiri Lehtinen fires it up the inside of Watson. Watson will have the inside line for the next corner there. Lehtinen tries to get the cut back there, but the BMW is always going to have the power, it's always going to have the grunt, and holds on to that 10th position. Again, remember what I was saying a couple of laps ago, that Honda now starting to lose its patience, now starting to get really antsy. And ladies and gentlemen, 20 minutes left to go, we have got a party. It is the party line here at Nürburgring. Watson, Lehtinen, Santima, Spansky, Vastner and Vitschork all coming to play as well. We've got a 6-car fight for 10th position, and well, this is going to get very messy. Mark my words, Cody Jarrett is still losing, hemorrhaging time. That gap now 4.9 seconds to Valentin Barrier. That's going to be a 3-car party coming up very shortly, within the next 5 minutes for sure, based on the time that's dropping off from that Ferrari. I wonder if the tyres have just completely burned out on that Ferrari just now. Marco Bischoff and Noah Ader looking very happy in 2nd and 3rd position just now, but we go on board with the Honda then as it comes through that right-hander coming up the hill towards the NGK chicane then. That is at Van Bogen. This is the NGK chicane, and then bounces it over the curves there into the Coca-Cola curve, that final right-hander before we go on to that start-finish straight here. And you can see just how much Sakari is having to work that steering wheel there on the exit of the corner. And again, it's all on the run down to turn 1. Is it going to be a look up the inside there? No, it's not. And the cars actually start to fan themselves out a tiny little bit here. Does Abe Santima fancy a little look up the inside? No, because he's got Adam Spansky there as well. But this is starting to get a little bit nail-biting here to Pello as we go back to the battle for 5th and 6th.
Yeah, for sure. And we saw this last week, and I think we're seeing it again. These final stages of the race, the last 15 or so minutes, tend to give us some interesting action, because it's either some drivers are going to decide that's enough, it's time to hold position and just make sure you finish in a good point scoring position, or you put pressure and you go for the overtake and trying to better your finishing position. So that is a very interesting point. And as we're riding on board with Sakari Lehtinen there, David, something I noticed, and you notice it a lot the more you look at these drivers, especially when you watch onboards, is just how much work they do on the steering wheel in trying to control the car. Now, obviously, the car plays a role in how it's set up. We're driving a different variety of cars, the Astons who are front-engine rear-wheel drive, and then you compare that with a Ferrari that's mid-engine rear-wheel drive. Those kind of layouts play a role in how the car handles, but there's also an interesting perspective on the inputs that some drivers prefer to put in. Some drivers are more of an erratic kind of input, some are very smooth. How do you find that you are as a driver, David? Are you on the smooth side of your inputs?
It depends on the car that I'm driving. So for this one, the 296 that we're on board with just now of Grantis Caracas, is an absolute joy to drive. I would say I'm a very smooth driver behind the wheel of this one. The downforce and the grip that this car affords you is just an absolute joy to drive. It really is. The other thing is we see, oh no, that is going to be Abe Santima facing round the wrong way, pulls the car back round, tries to get recovered there. That's on the exit of the arena section. Sasha Vastner then trying to defend from, you've got Dennis Vitschork in there as well. Vitschork fires it up the inside as well. This is all starting to get a bit scrappy. You've got Hake trying to get involved in this as well. So this is 13th, 14th and 15th position, all relatively speaking. Sasha Vastner though tries to hold it on the outside. Vitschork going round on the exit there. That's going to be onto the grass. Can he get it struck in time? Oh my god, how the hell did Vitschork get that car stopped in time? I've got absolutely no idea whatsoever. What I do know is he is going to be absolutely furious. That was Adam Spansky, excuse me, and not Dennis Vitschork. Vitschork now down into P14. Adam Spansky then gets the move done on him, and I get the feeling that is going to be why we saw Abe Santima facing round the wrong way. It's going to be contact in the arena section. That allows those two in front of Watson and Lehtinen to streak off into the sunset and get a little bit of room here. So Wow, a big moment. Again, we were saying that it was all going to come to a head. I didn't think it was going to be through them, but let's have a look at what happened and try and see if we can pick apart what actually occurred here. So we're watching Abe Santima here. This is down into one. The Honda goes a little bit deep, trying to get that outside line. A little bit of a hit there from Spansky, and, well, yeah, that's going to be a penalty, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And right after that, I think Spansky gave us the overtake save of the race. Just impressive how he held control of that McLaren going into the braking zone, as we see Grantas Caracas again putting a lot of pressure on Valentin Berrier. He has to be very careful to avoid another bonk incident, but pressure galore. But you see what I'm talking about in the way that Valentin Berrier has been driving, and I think he's been one of my favorite drivers to watch this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just how he defends and places that car and maximizes. He seems to have nailed the setup to give himself the most neutral platform that they can, as we finally see from race control the incident between cars 14 and 325 on lap 40, 10-second time penalty for car 325, and that is Adam Spansky for causing a collision, ladies and gentlemen. So unfortunate, but following a trend so far we've seen this season of late race penalties, but that is disastrous for Adam Spansky, and I think that is the kind of penalty that they will want to just carry till the end of the race. They're not going to think about pitting. No mandatory pit stops to kind of save you, so you carry that penalty and it will be added to your race time at the end. So that means now it's all about pushing and trying to minimize the damage that will be done by that huge 10-second time penalty.
I've got to say fair play to the stewards for getting that one turned around so very quickly. Obviously a little bit annoyed that their cup of tea has been spoiled by that late incident. It was all going so swimmingly well for the rest of the drivers just now. Vitshock has got past Spansky, so has Vassner then. So that car going from bad to worse, and that is likely going to drop Spansky down into P17. But you're absolutely spot on as well when you said about Valentin Barry and the inspired drive that he has done tonight. A lot of people think, oh well, you know, he's just acting like a roadblock. It takes ability, it takes skill to be able to drive like this and not lose positions hands over fist right now. The problem that he's got at the moment is that he doesn't really have anybody behind him that far away. Simone Seminara might be able to catch on to this, but for the most part he's going to have to fight Grantas Caracas tooth and nail himself for the next 12 minutes. Boothby doesn't look like he's coming under pressure. That gap that was coming down now going back out to Marco Bischoff. But the other thing that's interesting to me right now is Cody Sherritt right now with Valentin Barry. That gap is now down to 4.7 seconds. I don't know if he's actually going to get caught now, so Sherritt might be safe in that fourth position at the moment. Certainly not with the pace that Valentin Barry has got just now. I think he's too busy with Grantas Caracas in his rear view mirrors. We've got just over 11 and a half minutes left to go in round 3 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship Season 2. Daniel Gottschalk side by side with the McLaren of Tim Beyer in 19th position, so it's going to be a move up the inside for turn 1. Lee on the brakes, very apprehensive there. Beyer gives plenty of room there and almost hands that position over, but he's going to have the inside line in the next corner, and well, that's what apprehension can do. But these two are going to have to watch out, because they are going to have George Boothby putting them a lap down in just about 5 minutes time.
Yeah, look, and we've spoken about this. Look, the rate we've got in penalties kind of makes this a bit of a moot point, but the respect shown between these drivers sometimes in not forcing something. We saw the sportsmanship with Grantas Caracas when he made a mistake. I'll come back to that point as we see a bit of a battle going on the last corner, the Coca-Cola Curve turn 16. Abe Santima currently in competition with Neil Hacke and Adam Spansky here. Again, Spansky still driving with the 10-second penalty. Excuse me, it's Tariq Adam. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, just a bit of a mistake there. But it is very interesting just to see how these drivers go about this last stage of the race, last 10 minutes. You're obviously tired as a driver, and it's very tricky for you. You're tired. everyone's tied around you, but you're still trying to maximize your finishing position. So it will be very interesting. Don't be surprised to see a bit of a move gone wrong, you know, trying to break a bit later, but overcooking something, because it has been a long race, 90-minute race this evening, ladies and gentlemen, but well worth the action, and it will still pan out some stuff. I think we're getting to those moments, David Christie, where we start to tune in the Jaws music, because the battles are coming thick and fast now towards the end.
Yeah, we're seeing tyres dropping off, we're seeing concentration dropping off, we're seeing drivers deciding that they just want to get to the end come hell or high water. This is another example of it, the battle for P12 right now. Sasha Faster with Dennis Wietschork and Adam Spansky, who's got that 10-second penalty. You're seeing the Merc overdriving those tyres. That McLaren behind it looking very comfortable, has the grip on it as they come through. Van Bogen up the hill towards the NGK chicane. Is it going to be a move to the inside? You get the feel that it's going to have to be a late dart. Moves to the inside, does Dennis Wietschork onto the big side, jumps over the curb there, and that actually loses a little bit of time. Looking up through the field then, as there goes Grandes Caracas, finally trying to get this move done around the outside of the Aston Martin, shown to the grass there by the big bad Aston, but he's going to try and have the inside line, and that Aston is simply going to try and drive around the outside of him. Beautiful stuff there, and I'll tell you what, hats off to Valentin Barrier. That has been just a masterclass, a sheer masterclass in defensive driving tonight. Furious, absolutely frustrating for Grandes Caracas, but loving it. This is what makes good races, is having attacking drivers and great drivers that know how to defend.
Yeah, and something that I think we've spoken about that was very evident there. Nowhere did it look like Valentin Barrier was driving, dare I say, out of control or above their limit. I think they've nailed their setup to their driving style perfectly, because even in defending, nowhere does it look like they're overdriving or pushing for something that isn't there within their car. It just looks solid when it needs to. They accelerate really well out of the corners, and we've spoken about that kind of speed advantage when they get into the higher gears, and that's all they're using to defend. So again, this must be a very frustrating scenario for Grandes Caracas, because they've been putting a lot of pressure on Valentin Barrier, trying to force the move, trying to force them into a mistake, but it seems like no matter what Grandes Caracas tries, Valentin Barrier just has the calm and wherewithal to maintain that position. I've spoken about this. The stewards probably don't like me when I say this, but there is one more option for Grandes Caracas, and it is a bit of a love tap. If you want to get past the driver that's been frustrating you for so long in the race, I think it's going to come to the point where you have to throw everything and the kitchen sink as they finally get it done in the braking, but they go to... Again, I spoke about this. You're going to overcook a move, and they brake too late, and they went too deep, and Valentin Barrier was like, thank you so much, I'll take that position back.
What I loved about that entire thing is Valentin Barrier knew exactly what was going on here, and just really allowed Caracas to send it down the inside there, and it didn't work out. We've got a poll in the YouTube chat for your driver of the day. Is it George Boothby, Valentin Barrier, Noah Eder, or Grandes Caracas? Well, I think we've got your vote already on that, Tapello. I'm presuming that's going to be for Valentin Barrier.
Yeah, most definitely. And look, we don't like choosing favorites, but like I've said, I've just loved how managed they've been, how confident they've been with that car, and just maximizing on the package that they have. And I hope it's not the curse of the commentator. I do want them to finish P5, but you know, we'll try to say something and they lose position, they go deep into a corner, yada yada. You know how this plays out, but I think that's definitely been my driver of the day. How about you, David? Who do you have your eye on so far?
Well, it's a close one. Obviously, it's been a fantastic performance from George Boothby, leading this race from the very get-go and doing everything that he needed to do to make this a very secure race from the early stages. But the problem with that is that it doesn't really show us what he's made of. It doesn't really test him. It's just another dominant performance from George Boothby. Either way, points are points, and I'll be happy with that. But for me, for sheer entertainment value, for really, showing the mettle and showing some proper skill and determination. Valentin Barrier, I think, for me, is the driver of the day right now. Has been under pressure all the way from Grantas Caracas, and with 5 minutes left to go, has been a simply stellar showing from the driver in that high-mo setups, number 72 Aston Martin. He's really went above and beyond, and he's, as you said, many times now in the past half an hour, he's not looked at all like he's uncomfortable. He's not looked at all like he's overdriving the car or under anything that's outside of his capability right now. It feels like he's got this under control at the moment, and is basically just letting. It reminds me of, do you remember Scooby-Doo, the cartoon, and Scrappy-Doo? It feels like Grantas Caracas is a bit like Scrappy-Doo right now, and Valentin Barrier is kind of just holding him by the heads and letting him flail about, but not actually letting him do any damage right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, David Christie with an analogy for racing centering on Scooby-Doo. That's what you tune in for. That's what it's
quality
about.
Broadcasting right there. What are you talking about? That's a real insightful stuff.
That's one for the record books. But I think you mentioned a very good point, particularly with George Boothby and how he's gone about this race. And I think you're right. When you're that dominant of a driver and you can kind of pull a gap like this, you suffer from your own success in that we don't see what you're capable of. It sort of becomes routine that, they're going to lead, they're going to do this really well. But we kind of forget how much effort it actually takes to put in that kind of performance. But here, as we go on the battle between Dennis Vicholk and, is it Sasha Vassner? Yes, it is. As we see the Concertina effect getting down into turn 16 around the final corner. Again, trying to get a good exit, heading down into turn 1.
Some proper bump going on here. That was some
For
huge
sure.
hits there from Spansky, trying to fire him up the inside there, and that could possibly come a cropper. That Mercedes there was really caught out there. Sasha Vassner didn't know what to do, but that was a massive bump there onto Vicholk from Spansky.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of channeling their inner NASCAR racer there with a bit of bump drafting. So not something you see common in GT3 racing, but definitely a staple for the NASCAR races. But very interesting to see. Again, 2 minutes to go, and these drivers are still fighting for position. They're still pushing, but they're doing it in a way that is not really jeopardizing their race. And it's a bit unfortunate for Adam Spansky because they still do have that 10-second time penalty, but as it stands now, I think they're just going to lose 2 positions, just trying to judge by the gaps that are currently there. But hey, a penalty is a penalty, and sometimes if you do the crime, you must do the time. So unfortunately that will happen. But as we focus one more time on George Boothby, who is just started the final lap, if we do by time classification, ladies and gentlemen, a brilliant performance. And we cannot heap any more praise on just how composed, how quick. Just, I even ran out of words to describe the brilliance that George Boothby has shown at the start of the season, and just carrying over his form, his confidence from the end of last season. He is our reigning champion, but he's just kind of stepped it up to a different level this season. I think him and the Ferrari this season are proving to be a match made in Maranello.
Yeah, it's a firm favourite right now, just now for the season. He's looked so good with the pace of that car. But it's on the final lap then, ladies and gentlemen. White flag will come out in about 50 seconds time, because this is the final lap here for George Boothby here, round 3 at Nürburgring, and it's all been about the booby himself down there. I loved in the fact that it's been a complete draw. Driver of the day shared by George Boothby, shared by Valentin Barrier, shared by Noah Eder, and shared by Grantas Caracas at the moment, with 8 votes each. Get your votes in, and we will end that 5 minutes after the race and make sure to find out who your winner is. But here we go then, coming through at Van Bogen for the final time, almost putting another lap down on one of the McLarens just in front. But it's going to be George Boothby into the NGK chicane, through the tight left, then the right, and then it's going to be the Coca-Cola curve for the last time here. It's been lights to flag victory for George Boothby. He's done everything that's been required. It's looked so bloody easy yet again, but round 3 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship, George Boothby takes the checker flag. Marco Bischoff makes it 2-3 for Sprout Esports. Noah Ader will come across the line in P3. It's going to be Corey Sherritt who dropped down 11 seconds behind Noah Ader after that pit stop. And Grantis Caracas, try as he might, he could not find a way past the barrier that is Valentin Barrier. What a performance. 5th place for Valentin, 6th place for Grantis Caracas, 7th place for Simone Simonara, and then Luke Addison in 8th position, Tommy Rozier in 9th, and then Watson in 10th position. But my goodness me, that was some mighty, mighty fine racing there, all the way up to the checkered flag. And I think you're going to have some very happy drivers at the end of this one. George Boothby taking the win. And I imagine that, I think that it's going to be his usual chirpy self when he comes in to have a chat with us.
Yeah, look, for sure. And I think he's gotten bored of us at this point. He's had so many interviews to do with us. But again, another demonstration of just how good, how competitive, how close these guys can race, and just how big of a spectacle they can give us, the commentary team, but as well the viewers, ladies and gentlemen, who tune in weekly for these races. Just a brilliant exhibition of sim racing and just how good sim racing can be in South Africa and internationally, of course.
This is going to be absolutely, absolutely awesome. So we're just waiting for the drivers to make their way into the waiting room. We'll have a chat with them when they are ready. But what a fantastic performance it's been. A great race all round, and I think some very, very happy drivers. And crucially, again, some big points at this early stage of the season. The one thing we said on the build-up here is that the drivers that get themselves into that run-up to round 6, that halfway point in the season, without using their drop rounds, they are the ones that are going to be in a strong position come the end of the season. We also saw Tariq Adam not having the best of nights tonight. Some uncharacteristic pressure on Tariq tonight, and thankfully getting across the line and getting the best of it. But again, you've got that drop round to kind of take that out right now. But again, just with the fact that that's it done and dusted, and we've now looked towards our next rounds coming up next week here, I'm looking at that, and I just cannot see where this championship is going to go. I mean, we're off to Paul Ricard. Well, firstly, I don't know what to say about that track. It's brutal, but a lot of drivers will be very much looking forward to it, because I know it's quite a popular track with a lot of the drivers.
Yep, for sure. And look, I know you're planning your sick day.
Yeah.
For next week for that race, so I might have to pull a double shift there. But yeah, it's one of those, right? Because it's so close, and it can go either way. But I think we have George Boothby with us for his interview, ladies and gentlemen, the winner of this race. And let me take it away. George Boothby, once again, congratulations. I feel like those words have become too common for you towards the end of the last season and this season so far.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, that was a great race. Obviously, everyone was a bit in the dark because of a new update today. So it's new BOP changes, but thankfully, I don't think the Ferrari changed too much, so there wasn't any major thing I had to change. So I just drove my race, and it felt kind of similar. And yeah, it was tough because Mavics had really good pace, but I just managed to build a gap at the start and manage it all the way.
Yeah, but look, I love that you mentioned that, right? Because we touched on it during commentary throughout the race. Is how difficult is it for you as a driver when you're going into a race and there's just been a new update which has the potential to throw a spanner in the works for you? How do you cope with such a situation as a driver?
It just depends on how affected your car is. So if you've got a car that's had a major update, like your updates, ballast, power, then that could really mess with your setup. Maybe you have to make like little clicks to change it. Like I said, I was quite lucky that my car just got a turbo nerf and a turbo lag increase, so just an overall like power nerf in a way, but it wasn't too bad because obviously like that's really going to affect the car that much, apart from maybe just coming out the corners be a little bit more boggy. And I didn't really notice it, to be honest. So like I say, I was quite lucky in that sense. But yeah, it can really throw you off. You know, if you're practicing for a race, practicing for a series, and on the day it's just any variables change, you know, even if it's not that much, it can mentally be a game. Because, like, let's say I just was off today, I could just then start blaming it on this new update, right? And be like, oh, it's the update I'm slow, it's the update I'm slow. So, yeah, just keep it in that positive mindset and just cracking on with the car you've got, no matter what the issue, what the case, what the BOP, what the update. You just gotta do what you can do and make the best of it.
Ever the humble winner, Mr. Boothby. And I have more good news for you. Not only did you put in a dominant performance, but it seems like you're making such an impression on the viewers, and you have been voted the driver of the day overwhelmingly for today. So again, double congratulations for you.
Let's go. Thank you guys. I appreciate that.
So thank you so much. Again, fantastic to what you do best. I hope to see you putting in such a performance next week. I feel like you're becoming a part of the commentary team with how often we have you up here.
Thank you so much, guys. Like I say, thanks to you guys for putting this on, for watching my team, and all the people in the chat watching. That's really cool. And yeah, let's try and kick some ass again next week. Maybe we can get another good result.
Thank you so much, and have a good night going further.
Nice one. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Excellent stuff. There we go then. So George Boothby, as usual, chirpy, cheery, happy self, and great to hear that he is delighted being chosen as driver of the day. But moving on, second place, Marco Bischoff, Maybix, very warm welcome to have a chat with us. That was an interesting race, but you and Noah were kind of just all by yourself for that race.
Hey guys, yeah, thank you. It was, to be honest, not the most spectacular race, I think, but it was for the championship very important to be on the podium. George was today a bit too strong. I think the peak pace was a little bit better than our pace, and especially the consistency was the key. We had a bit of a struggle in the middle of our stint with our rear tires. So yeah, it was not the best consistency from our side, but overall it's a good result for the championship, and yeah, I'm very happy with that.
Another fantastic showing though for Sprout Esports, really sort of setting the waves here. Obviously it's update day. What's the thoughts from yourself on the changes to the McLaren?
I would say it's not a big difference in terms of driving. The McLaren is or got a little nerve, I think, with RPM and engine power. So it's, as I said, not a big difference. But yeah, we will see how it will be in the next races on the next tracks. So it will. Hopefully, it will be a good BOP overall.
And finally, Marco, obviously we saw a change of position for yourself and Noah after the pit stops were done there. Was that a planned move between the two of you?
Yeah, it was. As I said, we had a bit of a struggle, and Noah was struggling a bit more than I did. So it was, I could do a George pace, so in that time, and I wanted to push, so I asked Noah, is it okay for you? And he said, yeah, I'm struggling too much, and I let you go. But yeah, at the end I was a little bit faster over the whole race than Noah, and yeah, it's all fine between us, and we are happy with P2 and P3.
Excellent stuff. Well, listen, congratulations. Anybody that you would like to say thanks to tonight?
I would like to thank the orga behind this series and our team. Thank you.
Excellent stuff. Well, congratulations to Sprite, and we'll see you next week. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Ciao, ciao.
Oh, fantastic there, David. Once again, these guys showing up the season so far as we wait for Noah Ada to join us for his interview. Someone who's been very consistent as well this season. Noah, 3 races, 3 podium finishes. How does that feel for you?
Yeah, it's great. I was a bit... the race pace was not too good, so in quali I had the pace for P1. I had over 1.5 tenths in it, but race pace was not that good. But yeah, P3 is a great result.
Don't worry about it. You finished on the podium. There's no need to make excuses at this point. But tell me, how do you kind of focus when you're in a race? I think this was the first 90-minute race of a season. How much difference is there between a 60-minute and a 90-minute race for you?
For me, a 60-minute race is more like hot lapping every lap. But in a 90-minute race, you have to manage the tires. And in the first stint, I didn't manage it really because I don't know if it's the setup or it's just the car. But tire management was really bad in this race, so we have to work on that for tomorrow. But yeah, it's more like managing your tires, managing maybe also the fuel, and not like pushing every lap to the absolute limit.
I love how you speak about pushing every lap to the absolute limit when you guys can maintain such a tremendous pace throughout the race. But can I just ask, right? Because we do this race to prep tomorrow. How does this race help you in doing the prep for tomorrow?
It helps a lot. You already drove against really quick drivers like my teammate or Boosby, Karikas, Barrier. So you also trained You also trained the track a lot more than only hot lapping by yourself, and you know the fuel. You know how the setup behave over 1.5 hours, so you're a lot more prepared for tomorrow's race. So yeah, and it gives a lot more self-confidence.
No, for sure, and I can definitely get that. And look, you've been very consistent this season. You've been finishing on the podium every race so far. Kind of missing that number 1 position, but I hope you get there. Any shout outs you want to make to end off another brilliant night for yourself?
Yeah, to all viewers watching, to my team, of course, to my teammate who also did a great job. And yeah, thanks for this a possibility to prepare for tomorrow's race, because it's really nice and it is really a lot of fun.
No, for sure. As long as there's smiles per gallon, my friend. Thank you. Congratulations once again on another brilliant drive from you, Noah.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Awesome stuff. Yep, awesome stuff, Tapello. Just very quickly, because we're running out of time here, today's participation prizes are sponsored by IMB Racewear. 2 drivers are about to get a £20 voucher. So I believe we are going to have to get a wheel up here and figure out who we've got, because we've got quite a few drivers in there. So we've got likes of Boothby, Ader, Bischoff, Barrier, Sherritt, Caracas, Santima, Addison. Basically, I think everyone in the top 20, Tapello, eligible for these awesome prizes from IMB Racewear.
Oh no, I forgot to register my alt account and add, a tricky name.
Kevin Driste has been entered into the chat. Right, we've got the wheel up. Let's spin that wheel. Let's press the boop button, and it goes. Lovely. Right, it does come with sound effects. No way. Valentin Barrier, let's go. Worthy winner right there. I'll absolutely let that one happen. Valentin Barrier getting the first of our £20 vouchers for tonight. Let's press the button again and see where it ends up. Who are we thinking? Oh, it's going to be Boothby. Is it going to be Ader or is it going to be Bischoff? It's Marco Bischoff, my goodness me. So second place and gets a voucher as well. Remember, that's drawn at random from everyone that is eligible to get one of those driver participation prizes. So two £20 vouchers on their way to both of those drivers. But Tapello, that is us for tonight. Any final thoughts on our race today?
A brilliant race, the first 90-minute race of the season. So I hope we have more races like this to come. I said the season has been serving up tremendous action on circuit, so long may it continue.
Excellent stuff. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've been David Christie. It's been an absolute pleasure to have Tapello Meriole in the commentary box here with me. Here is what we've got in store for the rest of the season. Next week, we're off to Paul Ricard, and our next 90-minute race, I believe, is going to be Valentine's Day, the Lover Special at Kyalami for round 6, and then Spa as well, and then round 12 at Silverstone. 90-minute races, 4 of them coming up. Paul Ricard, Snorefest next week, but I promise it'll be back to normal on Watkins Glen. Join us next week, though. We'll actually have action. I'm just a terrible sim racer who can't drive it. That's all it is. But on behalf of everyone here at Genisus Risk, thank you very much for joining us here on the Genesis Esports channel. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you back next week for round 4 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. We go racing. Luke Whitehead lights it up. Rick Adam is going to take the green flag and send them all down to Hell Corner. But here we go. This is the action. We will side by side. A little bit of a nudge, a little bit of a clip of his teammate there. This is through the dipper, and that, I think, is one of the Genesis cars going straight into the wall